All right, welcome everybody to another installment of Grid Down Survival Retreat Consulting with Jonathan Hollerman. Hey, we're going to discuss the library resources PDF that we're releasing. So it's basically a snapshot of a bunch of books that I would recommend that you have in your library. I know a lot of people these days are starting to collect books on Kindle, and that is a great way to store up a lot of books in a small amount of space. It's very important that you keep that Kindle player in a EMP proof container and keep it hardened so you have access to that information after the fact. So you can load up couple hundred books on a Kindle. The problem is if there is a serious catastrophe, you end up at your survival retreat and all of a sudden you've got 20 people there and 20 people need to be learning 20 different subjects. You can't just pass out a book to everybody because everything's on one Kindle device or tablet. So I would recommend at least the core, the most important books. I would have hard copies of all that information. And so today I'm just gonna scan down through the PDF resource that we have, and I'm going to touch on not all the books, but a lot of the books that are in here that I recommend. So the first one's going to be Survival Theory: A Preparedness Guide. That is my own personal book, and I realize that it seems kind of self-serving that I would recommend that you read my book. You probably read it if you're here anyway, but the important aspect of that is the mindset. So in that book, I don't cover every aspect of surviving. You can't in any book. Every book on preparedness is going to cover either a certain niche of that topic or it's going to give broad recommendations on a lot of different topics. And that is what the second half of my book does, is give some broad recommendations on a lot of topics that I don't think a lot of the other books have touched on. So I try to include information that I hadn't read in other places, or give my recommendations for certain things and explain why my thought process was behind those things. But survival theory, the reason it's important is the first half of the book, uh, less so about the incidents, but I would say the middle third of the book, and where I discuss mindset and what this situation is going to look like. That's so fundamentally important. And it's something that's severely lacking in most preparedness books, is having a full understanding of what a grid down situation would really look like in this country, how hard it's going to be to survive. Because a lot of the other experts, they really minimize things, and they whitewash how bad it's going to get, right? Or they over emphasize things. Reports, these are huge. These reports are very important. The EMP Commission, read all their reports, but especially the 2004 the original EMP Commission report. You've got the executive report from 2017, which is kind of a update to the original 2004. You have foreign views of EMP attack by the EMP Commission and Dr. Peter Pry. That will lay out the kind of how the other countries think about EMP and how they're kind of the number one source of attack going forward into the future. Same goes with nuclear EMP attack scenarios and political military motives for EMP attack. Those are all three reports that were part of the 2017 EMP Commission document dump. If you haven't read those, I'll read those. I would definitely recommend the Electromagnetic Defense Task Force that I was a part of 2 years ago now. It's called the EDTF 2018 report, EDTF 2019 report 2.0. So take a look at both of those reports. And then China EMP threat, that's a new one that just came out. That's Dr. Peter Pry's take on China and what's happening with their EMP threat, and they're growing there. So make sure you read all the stuff from the EMP Commission. They are the gold standard. They are not politically motivated. Half of them are Democrats, Republicans. It's not political at all. They are the go-to source. They are the only ones that have access to the highly classified data on EMP. So you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. Everybody else, from the electric utility industry and the newspapers and the radio news reports and internet sites you go to, they do not have access to the truth about the EMP threat that the EMP Commission does. So So they are the gold standards. And that leads me to resources to follow. So I highly recommend you follow the EMP Commission website. There's a link in the document. If you click on the underline, the Secure the Grid Coalition, again, is the leader in this industry as far as the fight to secure the grid, along with High Frontier. That's Hank Cooper's organization. And the last one is Michael Mabey. And he's not last. He should probably be first. Michael Mabey is the tip of the spear as far as a private individual going after utility companies. He actually just released, if you haven't read it, we'll post a link down below. I can't remember the name of the report, but he filed an official docket with the Department of Defense on the threats of the utility companies not hardening our grid. And he basically laid out there in detail, in minutia detail. It's all hyperlinked, exactly why we are exactly where we are right now. And he lays out why it's not going to get fixed, because the electric utility companies are in charge of themselves. They set their own security standards. They don't follow their own security standards. They have to self-report themselves. They have to turn themselves in. When they do give themselves a fine, you can't find out how much the fine is. That fine that the utility company pays goes right back into the utility lobbying, coffers. It's just this big gerbil wheel, self-licking ice cream cone. And it's gonna, the electric grid is going to crash and burn at some point. It's going to happen in our lifetimes. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. And God bless. As always, prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and let God do the rest. Take care.